Ever wonder why some user interfaces look crisp and professional, while others just tend to miss the mark? It can often come down to one simple thing: spacing. Poorly spaced designs can be messy and confusing, whereas well-spaced layouts are intuitive, polished, and can be fun to use. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you how mastering the 4-point grid system will instantly level up your designs. You'll create interfaces that communicate better, look amazing, and are a dream to hand off to product teams and developers. All right, let's get into it. First, let's quickly talk about something called the UX law of proximity. Now, this is one of the fundamental principles in UX design, and it's all about grouping related items closer together so users understand relationships at a glance. In other words, proximity helps people make sense of your user interface fast. And the key takeaways here, you'll see an example from Google search results. You can see that each result here has its own cluster of information spaced accordingly. So we've got the main Google search title here in purple, we've got the subtext below that, and we've got the small timestamp below that, then a larger space, and then into the next result. And so you can see here that those results are grouped and spaced accordingly so that people can scan them quickly, they can make sense of the page that they're on and find the information they're looking for. Consistent spacing isn't just about making things look good, it's about creating clarity, guiding the eye, and making your user interface feel intuitive. But how do we apply proximity in a real project? Well, that's why we bring in the 4-point grid system. Now, the 4-point grid system is as straightforward as it sounds. Think of it this way: every space, margin, padding is divisible by the number 4. So you guessed it, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 48, you get the idea. All right, I've got an example on the screen here of 2 designs, one on the left with incorrect spacing, the one on the right with the correct spacing. Now, see if you can tell the difference right off the bat. I know that when I look at this, the one on the left just feels completely off to me, and we're going to talk about why that is. Starting with the heading text. It's way too vertically spaced. The line height is just way off. If we click on that and look at the values over here on the right, you can see that the font size is 32. That's great, that's divisible by 4, but the line height is set to 55. Now, is 55 divisible by 4? No, it is not. And so what we would want to do here is we want to do something like what we've got on the right, where we keep that 32 size font because that works well, but we change our line height in this case to 40 pixels. And now it sits much closer together, it reads much clearer, and it just communicates the vibe much better. All right, the next thing that I can see wrong with the left-hand example is the space between the heading text and the subheading below. Now, remember when we talked about the UX law of proximity, we talked about grouping related items closer together so they communicate better and can be easily scanned. And so you can see here, we've got currently 35 pixels of space between the heading text and the start of the body text. Now, is 35 divisible by 4? No, it's not. And so what we need to do is we need to find a better number that can group those items closer together. So you can see right now in this example on the right, we've reduced that number down from 35 to 16, a number that fits into that 4-point grid system. But as you can see, visually now much closer in proximity to what we were looking at before. And then lastly, we've got the space between the body copy on the left and the get started button. And right now that's sitting at 50 pixels, which is not on our 4-point grid system, as well as just looking completely separated. We've got 3 different elements here that just don't work together as one message, contrasting to the right where it all sits beautifully. And so what we've got here is the space from the button to the subheading text here is 24 pixels. And so again, 24 absolutely on the 4-point grid system. Now you might say, why have we gone 16 pixels between the heading and the subheading and 24 between the subheading and the button? Shouldn't they be the same? They look the same, and you're right, they do look the same. And this is a bit more of an advanced topic to cover, but things around optical spacing. And while, mathematically you might want to go 16 and 16 because it's correct, I'll show you what happens if I change this spacing to 16. Go down from 24 to 16. Right, so now we've got 16 between the header and the subheader and 16 between the subheader and the button. Now, if we zoom out and look at that, does it look wrong? Not overly, but there's something a little bit off about it compared to what we had before. And while they're the exact same values, sometimes, especially when you're dealing with headings and type on the page, you're not aligning to the bottom of what you can see where the type is. You can see that blue line there. You've actually got a bounding box that goes around the type, both on the body and the text. And that's what you're actually aligning to, especially when using auto layout in Figma on the right here. So what we do to combat that is use a technique called optical spacing, where if I change that now back to 24 and we zoom out, now you can see that looks like it's the same. So visually it's the same, it's still on the 4-point grid system, and it works. So there you have it. If you master the 4-point grid system, everything you design will be perfectly spaced, aligned, and visually balanced. Remember, you're not just designing, you're communicating clarity and hierarchy with every pixel. By following the 4-point grid system, you're naturally aligning to the UX law of proximity, making it easier for users to navigate and interact with your designs. Remember, sometimes the smallest adjustments can make the biggest impact. All right, guys, if you found this video helpful, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more design quick tips and updates. If you have any questions or want to know more about the 4-point grid system, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, happy designing, and I'll see you in the next video.